Welcome to the UST Education recorded webinar series. This session is powered by US Transactions. UST is a boutique payment processing firm providing you with personalized service. We offer agnostic, best-fit technology solutions for associations, nonprofits, and enterprise clients.
Good morning, everybody. And I am Mitzi Ridley from Inovia Consulting. And I am a senior application consultant here. I've been with Inovia for almost 4 years, but consulting for many years beyond that. And I actually came from an end user who was on NAV and decided to join the consulting side. So today's agenda is going to be what can you do with the service management module, setups to consider, service items and resources, service orders and invoices, and then finally, service contracts and warranty. So what can you do with service management? Service management can be utilized in many different fashions. You can have preventative maintenance, which is if you want to, with fixed assets, if you want to keep track of your maintenance to make sure everything works appropriately. And you can also do for other people, you can do warranty and billable services, installation services, and also internal plant maintenance. This is a service that even if you are not in the service industry, it helps you maintain your internal vehicles or machinery or anything like that. It's a good way to capture the cost of having these machines or vehicles or anything in your facility to see if something is underperforming or if it needs to be replaced due to the underperformance. It's also a good way to consume the parts or labor that go into servicing your units. You also could use service management in mobile field service. So if you have technicians that go out into the field, they can connect with a mobile device, engaging in other type of ISVs with, let's say, Dynamics Field Service or any of those. And that way your technicians can record their activities and time and parts and everything in real time, and then it can flow straight into Business Central. So you don't have the lag or extra overhead to have someone manually enter a second time all that activity. Oops. So what are 2 ways you can use the service module? This is one of your questions. All right. So I see one person has answered invoicing. Is there other areas? All right. So let's review the setups for the service management module. I'm actually going to come into actual Business Central so that you can see, because I'm a more visual versus talking about things. So give me 1 second. So in the service management module, you have your, give me a second. All right, you have the different areas that you want to, and let me explain something. On service, it's a very large module. You can utilize it at a very surface level, or you can deep dive and really do some tracking and information and actually do some fault reporting, all these different areas. It all depends on how deep you go with your setups. So on your service management, you can have a very simple setup, which I have here, or also go deep dive into a fault reporting level. And that does involve a lot of setups, but once they're there, you can actually have things bring in, assist your service technicians. If you say this is leaking oil, and it'll give you directions on how to resolve the situation. You also can have some troubleshooting setups in the background. All these different things you set here And you can also, you also have some warranty discounts. You can say if it's in the warranty, you can either discount it by 50%, 100%, whatever you do here, that's how you're gonna set it up, and that's strictly your defaults. You can also set up some of your contract areas here. All of this right here, as we know in our setups in Business Central, you get this to start your processes so you can utilize the module. So like I said, you have service, you also have with the fault reporting, you can set up service item groups, which actually are set on the item. And let me get there real quick. So on your item card, you can set on your a certain type of items that they would be a type. You can have any type, and this is a free flow. You can set up any type of classifications that work best for your business to have that main service item group on that item type. And then you can also set standard service codes that would then flow into the actual service item when you create it. You have skill codes, which then you can set those on your resource. So then certain resources can be set by their skill code for, say, they have engine repair or different types of skills. And that way, when you are setting your resource to a service order or service contract, they actually have the skills required. And that's also if they have certifications that would be required, that you have that visibility within your Business Central. You have service zones. So if you have if you map out in your area, different areas, you can set for your resources to be allocated into the zones, and also where you can do your planning appropriately. Now, remember, not all of these are required. These are just certain different levels of setup that you can use within Business Central to get more use out of the service module. Like your customer price groups, there's also service price groups, which again is set on the service item. And then you can also, like I said, set up different type of troubleshootings along with your fault codes. That'll help solve a lot of the deep dive into what you want to use your service module for. So where is the service item group set in Business Central? Anyone? All right. If you recall, this is set on your service item, where you can actually set the standard service codes. So let's talk about service items. So service items are not your item card, but it's a separate way to identify what is being worked on. So the service item card, let's look at here. What you do in your service item card is you have a specific or unique number that is to identify what your item that you're working on. And this is so that you can have multiple forklifts that are exactly the same, except for the different serial numbers. And this is a way to track that. So you have your unique identifier. You then assign the item that it is, which is where I have here, I have my forklift assigned to it. And then any kind of specific descriptions. And you'll see here, I have that service item group code pulled in from my item number. And this is also where I have my service price group code. So our price groups, again, you can see the different areas. It's just a way of classifying and also setting different fault codes, all these different things you can set up in the background so that you can grab. And again, remember, this is not mandatory to use. It's just another layer of detail that you can put within your service item. The key thing here is your serial number. That gives you the way to track which service item and which actual machinery it is. You have your statuses. Also, if you have a certain response time, these are just different things you can set on the service item card, again, to help track and facilitate the use and the service going on the unit. If something is under warranty. It can calculate here. And again, you have that, we have the default populations of the percentage from the setup. But if you did not want to, for any specific reason, you can actually set it at whatever specific for this one service item. The key thing on your service item is to actually assign it to the customer. That way, this service item is owned by this specific customer, and that way, when you go to invoice, it would then invoice this customer and hit their receivables. If this is for internal tracking, you can assign it to an internal customer, and that way you can capture your costs associated. You can actually, again, just like any type of order, you can have the multiple ship to, so you can know where the actual unit is. Yes, you can have a location of the service item, but this would give you your technician the address. So if this one customer has multiple locations and multiple pieces of equipment, it would go out to that specific area. If something is on a service contract, which we'll talk about later, this is where we could set some defaults, and you'll see that this one actually does have a service contract associated with it. And then if you want to capture any details of where you purchased the item, if it's from, you know, we can do service on items that were purchased from another vendor. It doesn't have to be sold by your company. It's a good way if there's ever any questions, if you need to go back and find specific parts for the unit, it would be a good way to have that information on this specific item card. And again, you have some different details here, and the installation date will actually come over here and help calculate your warranty dates. And if you recall, we have this set for that 1 year. It is a default. You can also change that by the different service items on the contract. All right, let's go back. So that's our service items. Any questions? Since we're a small group, I'm more than happy to answer any questions as they come up. Just let me know if you want to put it in the chat. I will try to keep an eye on it. All right. So let's actually go to our service orders. Give me 1 second. I just want to make sure I'm on track. All right, service items we covered, and now let's go over to our service orders. So a way to grab the information and the activities that are handled on the service item, you would issue a service order. With that, this is where if someone needs to come in and make or do some work on the service item, you would then issue it based on what is needed. Let's go to one that I created. That one was a system created. All right, so here we have the different, oh, excuse me. This is the internal ones that I created just because I wanted to show. So this is what we have is, you know, a description of what needs to happen on your service order. Again, you have the customer that it's assigned to. If it is on a this is your contact, of course, and the sell to, ship to. Now let's get over here. The service order type is one of the setups that we talked about. So here it's a good way to show, let's actually look at all of them. The service order types come in here. It's a way for classification. If it's a planned maintenance, a field service. And again, this is flexible to whatever meets your business needs. These are just some that I have used before. If you have an annual inspection, all these different things, again, whatever works for your company. That response date and time, or response date that we had in the service management is what's calculating our response date based on when the order came in. Key thing you can have is your statuses. It's a good way to see what is in process, what is finished. It's a good way for when you want to filter your different sales or service orders to see what is needing to get attention and what can be billed out. So let's scoot down here again, just like a service or a sales order, you have different areas here with your invoicing and the shipping. And let's look at the details. That's going to be our main thing we want to look at. So this is where we have a different way to find out what allocated hours, the different, scheduling, if you had a service zone here, and then also your finish date and time. So on the lines, you actually enter in your service item. And I lost the chat. I apologize if someone asked a question. Your service lines. This is the way that you're assigning this service order to a specific service item. So what you do is, because this is this customer's item, it's entered here, and the information from our service item card is inserted here. Now, the key to know here is, well, where do I clock my use of certain components, certain labor and different things that I need to consume? That's going to happen down here on your service item worksheet. So the service item worksheet here is the different areas that you can set information. You have, again, you have the service price groups. You can add in fault area codes if you needed them. And you have your fault and symptom. You can set on here if you're a fabrication shop, different things that are going to tell you what you need to, to handle. And then, of course, your resolutions if you need to. And this is, again, not mandatory. It is to help your technicians or even your internal group to be able to work with, have more details in what they're doing. So on the service item worksheet, you have your lines here. Now, it's not like your sales order that you have charge items and all that, but you do have 4 different service types. You can have an item, which is whatever you're using to fix your unit. Your resource, so they can clock their time and add in their hours. You have your GL if you need to capture an expense there, but you also have a cost. Now, let's look at service cost. I haven't really dug into this, but it's another way of getting billable areas out onto your service order, and also what GL it's going to. So for here, if I wanted to capture travel and hit a certain GL, I can have some default rates here. And that way your technician doesn't need to know what the dollar figure should be. This way they can add it in however they want. So if you have a mobile recovery call charge or any kind of maintenance, anything like that, you can sit here and just add it to the service order, and it would get billed out like you would all your other areas. And you'll notice that it came in with the default price. On here, you'll notice I have a resource, which is Marty, my technician. He's going to be out there for 2 hours and 2.5 hours. And you'll notice I don't see anything here. That's because I have the exclude from warranty marked on this. But what it's going to do normally is include it. Let me go to the previous one because I had already adjusted that. So let's go to our service item worksheet. You'll notice that, yes, I have my unit price here, but if I go to bill this, because it's 100% under warranty, it's not going to actually charge because I have it at 100% discount. If something you want to bill, even though technically it is under warranty, you can always say exclude from warranty, say it was something that was unique. If they requested something outside of what would be covered in warranty, it would then come in at a 0 discount. Let's show you what I'm talking about. It's going to say, do I want to continue? And now they actually are going to get billed for this labor of Catherine. All right, so let's go back to the other one. So on our service item worksheet, you can sit here. You'll notice it's certain things are in here that can be excluded, included, and you can also add, if it was on a contract, it would be populated here. Anybody have questions so far? I know I talk fast. And I can't find my chat. There we go. All right. So when you're ready, if everything had been completed, you would then post. If your technician wants to, they can come in here, you can post, and you can have the option of just shipping, invoicing. Typical would be ship and invoice and say you're having to send something out. And then you can also, for internal use, you could ship and consume. That way you are actually removing a part from inventory, but you're not actually setting an invoice because it would be for internal use. You can actually, if you have your advanced warehousing, you can also do some true warehouse shipments and all of the normal functionality associated with the true warehousing also. So we talked about our items, our resource, GL, and costs. Those are all on our service item worksheet. Like I said. So what are the 4 service item worksheet line types? See if you're actually listening to me. Anyone want to put an answer in the chat or call out? All right. Like I said, it is your items, resource, GL, and costs. Let's talk about service contracts. On service contracts, you have some other setups. You have your service contract groups, account groups, and you can have contract templates. So let's look at what a service contract looks like. One thing I wanted to note that both on service contracts and service orders, there are ways to do quotes. It works very similar to the actual service order, but it's a way to get an estimate out there to your customers and then flip it like you do a normal sales quote over to a service contract or quote. Let me find my service contracts. All right, so I have one here. And when you first set up your contract, you have your normal areas that you're going to put here, what the starting dates are, all the different type of information that would be held on your service contract. This is the contract group code. I did not set any up, but this is another way you can set a grouping of different contracts as you wanted. This is not required. Now, the service contract group is not required. However, the service contract account group is required. That is a field that you won't be able to go beyond. And that is because you set your prepaid contract account along with your non-prepaid accounts. This normally would be 2 different ones. Again, this is for demonstration purposes only. We have the normal settings here, your shipping, your invoicing. Now let's get to the service. This is where you have different defaults you can set in here. The service period populates based on what the default was at the service management setup. But again, per contract, you can change that whatever fits your needs here on the service contract. And again, your service order type. The reason we have this is if you needed to, when you do a service order and you bring in your service item that is on the contract, it will then populate onto that service order for traceability and your service ledger entries. You have your different normal stuff, you have your details, your price update, all this different information that you can capture on the contract. That way, everything processes appropriately. You have the ability to do invoice after service or combine invoices. All of this helps for the ease of handling and managing your service contracts. And again, you have your different settings you can put on your service contract in the details. If there's an expiration date, if you have a labor prices. At the service contract lines, you have the ability to have 1 or more service item. So if you purchase or contract to service 4 different forklifts that have different serial numbers, they could all be listed here on this one, as long as it's owned by that one customer. You also have different settings here. You can have your different values and your amounts, your profit. And it also says your different planned service dates and then also contract expiration dates. All of this is handled to help you with your service contract invoicing. What that means is you can set a batch invoicing. Say you bill them once a month for the contract. You can then have service invoicing by do a batch or create one individually. And then you have all of your statistics associated in your side here with the customer details. And also you then, once you're ready and everything's signed and good, you want to make sure you sign and lock your contract so nobody can come in here easily and make any changes to the contract so that it does, since this is technically an agreed upon service. You have the ability to prepare different contract change customers, all the different things on here that will make managing your service contracts with your customers for different service items a good way to keep track. And then you have your service ledger entries that are related. So you see you have different things that you can check based on the contract. And then you have your warranty ledger entries and then also service ledger entries here. All right. Does anyone have any questions? I know that was a top level, but again, like I said, we have some serious different levels of the service module within Business Central. It can be very top level, or you can have a deep dive into setting up your fault reasons. You also can set up loaners. I didn't really cover that, but you can have loaners if you have that program. Again, that's just a unit that you would then substitute out while you're doing service if you ever had to bring something in to have maintenance done internally. And the loaner would be something that is owned by your company.